Hello everyone. I'm a frequent lurker here, and after reading a great amount of stories, I feel mine will fit just right. This experience was pretty unsettling and nerve-wracking for me and my girlfriend. We're both 21 to 23-year-old girls. It happened around a month ago. I'm gonna start off by saying neither me nor my girlfriend scare easily. My girlfriend has seen some shit in her life that current shit barely phases her. And I have some experience as a combat soldier and lived all my life in a somewhat constant war zone. I know I can get overly paranoid, and I tend to confuse intuitive, real gut feelings with plain paranoia. So I might have made some decisions in the story that would make me look like an utter tard against my better judgment. My girlfriend lives in the US, and I flew here to see her and spend some time with her. I'm from Israel. She lives in a big house with 5 roommates. Most are pretty chill, the exception being the house owner. The owner continuously refused to turn on the AC, even during the heat wave when temps was up to 100, and it was basically fucking Mount Doom inside out. The house was, and still is, also in pretty bad shape. Filthy, old, and a shit ton of insects. Not a nice place to live in. So after getting into a heated argument with the owner about the AC, she decided she had enough, and we embarked on a journey to find a new place. I went on Craigslist and started looking for fairly cheap apartments. I stumbled upon an odd ad that matched the price we were looking for, and had some decent pics of the house. It was very roomy, clean, with cable TV, Wi-Fi, a backyard, massive garage, and an indoor gym, and most importantly, an AC. The ad was seemingly written by a girl. I assume so because the word boyfriend was mentioned at least 3 times, and was not signed by any name. The ad itself was a bit odd. The girl, mentioning the room, was very popular, and she has received many inquiries about it, even though she posted this ad multiple times in the past month. Some words and some sentences were furiously caps locked, and it just overall felt like a bitchy way to write an ad. Another thing was the price. It seemed too good to be true, that a room in a house like that, with so many features, would have such a low price for it. Considering the room prices in the market at the time, and that no one took it up for an entire month, oh well, we were desperate. I ran it through my girlfriend, and we looked up the neighborhood and decided to send girl a text. As she mentioned several times, she won't accept any other form of communication. Girlfriend was still pretty pissed off about the entire ordeal with the house owner, so I decided to pretend to be my girlfriend and use my prepaid phone to text with girl. Legit the smartest thing I ever did. We'd soon learn. I texted girl again, pretending to be my girlfriend, and after going through an interrogation ranging from where do we currently live, what's her source of income, the exact number of cash she gets a month, info about family members, any mental illnesses, etc., girl texted us the exact address and told us to come by. Throughout our conversation, I finally learned girl's name, Alan. Now, I watched enough foreign TV to know Alan is not usually a girl's name. That feeling of suspicion I was getting grew stronger. But then I thought to myself, Alan could just be a gay man living with his boyfriend. It is America, after all. And girlfriend reassured me that's probably the case. Other than girl being actually Alan, the questions were off-putting, and Alan's way of writing gave me pretty weird vibes. But I brushed it off, thinking I'm just not used to this sort of stuff because it doesn't happen in my country, and that's probably just how things work here. So me and girlfriend set up a date with Alan, and off we went. Alan's neighborhood seemed quiet. a traditional suburban neighborhood with houses lined up parallel to the street. Alan's house had a decently sized front yard, surrounded by a fence with a warning dog and neighborhood watch signs. The latter was sort of reassuring. Neighborhood watch people are supposed to be the good guys, right? We parked by the house next to Alan's, and I texted him we were outside, in front of his house. No, you're not. Okay, I texted him again, saying we definitely are. The blinds on all of his windows were completely shut, which again made me grow more suspicious. I saw a man opening a small gap in the blinds. Moments later, he texted us. I see you now. Dude, what? That just creeped us the fuck out. Just come out and greet us like a normal person. Jeez. Open the gate and come inside. Again, why wouldn't he just come out? We're two skinny, 5'4", 5'7" girls standing 10 meters away from the entrance. I was thoroughly creeped out, but girlfriend brushed it off, so I just assumed Americans are fucking rude. Nope. It was just Alan. We proceeded to try opening the gate door. It had a weird angle to it, and we were having trouble opening it from the outside. I texted Alan and asked for him to just come out and open the gate for us, to which he replied, "Just twist the damn thing." Dude. We finally got the gate to open and walked towards the door. He finally came out. Alan was a little bit taller than us, but incredibly buff. He greeted us and invited us to the living room to talk. The conversation was super fucking weird. He was asking extremely personal questions, like why my girlfriend has the mental illnesses she has. How did her family react to this? And to that. How many girls she slept with. Was she ever raped, etc. Alan overshared info about himself as well, but all of his stories seemed extremely exaggerated and out of this world. Like he'd tell us how he lived with a mother, her morbidly obese child, and a convicted felon. How said convicted felon had exactly 13 bullet holes and how he threatened him. Overall stories that sounded like exquisite bullshit. My girlfriend, being the sympathetic and empathetic person she is, kept talking and sharing with Alan. I, on the other hand, grew more and more suspicious. My suspicion has peaked when Alan told us he wrote his ad as a girl as an experiment to see if he could lure more people to see the house. His words. And he said he lives with his girlfriend, who wasn't home at the moment, and with 2 other people, who were conveniently also out. The house was dead empty. Moreover, he wouldn't stop texting someone and looking stuff up on his phone the entire time. He also casually said he always researches his tenants, whatever that means. I was not liking it one bit. I was staring at Alan during the entire 2-hour-long conversation. During this time, he hasn't looked at me once, nor spoke to me. Asked me 0 questions, which I found peculiar since I'm going to be staying in that house too, even if not for long. I think Alan noticed me staring him down because he abruptly cut the conversation and offered us a house tour. During the tour, Alan was complaining about one tenant he evicted last week, claiming it was because he wouldn't stop hogging the kitchen to watch TV. Now, the TV was positioned in such a way it'd be impossible to watch it in the angle he was demonstrating. He just got weirder and weirder. The more doubting looks I shot at him. He somehow got to talking about his dog, and he made it a point how he takes his dog to a groomer every week to massage his fucking anal glands. Yeah. The weirdest part, though, was the garage. You see, the garage was locked. Alan went to fetch the key, opened the door, and gestured us to get in first. I really didn't want to. My gut feeling was super fucking angry at me for even being around the guy. But I kept brushing it off as paranoia. The garage is big, has a fancy car in it, and plenty of tools. There was also a locked room in it. Alan claimed it was a bathroom. As soon as we turned around to leave, we saw, and I shit you not, a 9-inch dildo on a chair next to the entrance to the garage. We didn't notice it when we entered because of the angle of the chair. A fucking dildo in the garage. I'm screaming inside, thinking this dude is fucking batshit. Did he seriously, innocently forget a dildo in his garage, knowing he's having people over? Was this connected to that locked tiny room? I had 1,000 scenarios running through my brain connecting the dildo to that shady little room. I'm sure you can guess the nature of them. He saw the dildo and apologized, only to start talking about his sex life later in our tour wrap-up conversation, explaining his extensive curiosity with us, with, you never know who you're going to live with. It could be a serial killer, a rapist, a pedophile. Again, I was going mental in my head. Who says something like that to potential tenants? I remained completely calm on the outside and tried hinting at my girlfriend we should leave. But Alan wouldn't shut up. At one point in the convo, he decided to turn off the lights in the living room, which made the house pretty fucking dark, closed blinds and all. I was ready to nope the fuck out of there at this point. Throughout this convo again, Alan did not look at me nor speak to me and was continuously texting someone. In my head, any minute now, some dudes were going to appear behind us and drag us to that fucking tiny room in the garage. I was in complete ultra-awareness mode. When Alan had enough of our company, he abruptly ended his conversation with my girlfriend and told us to leave because he has another person coming to see the house. Fucking finally. As soon as we got in the car, me and girlfriend discussed how utterly fucking weird that guy was. She was way less disturbed than I was. But then again, his and her backstory matched, and she felt more sympathetic to him. I'm sure he did that on purpose, inventing wild stories as they talked, and didn't notice all the weird shit in his stories or the small little things he said or did. I didn't want to worry her too much, so I let go of it, and we went on grocery shopping, while she hoped that the guy liked her enough to take her in as a tenant. I wished for the opposite. Now, if that experience wasn't fucking creepy enough, around 10 minutes after leaving the house, Alan texted me, thinking he's talking to my girlfriend. Did you like the house? Sorry about the dildo. It's my girlfriend's. He kept texting me for the entire drive home, which was around 30 minutes. Did your girlfriend like it here? Show me pics of your dog. My girlfriend wants to see. And more prying questions. He kept texting me the entire day. The entire day. Mostly about how connected he feels to my girlfriend, and how he wishes his girlfriend would like her so she could come live with them. Creepy Alan did not cease to be creepy until 2 days later, still texting me even after he had told us his girlfriend doesn't want us in the house, which happened on the same day of the visit, mind you, because she didn't like our dog's breed, a big, cuddly Doberman. The last group of texts were especially creepy. Me and my girlfriend are polyamorous. We met at a threesome, haha. And the creme de la creme. I must confess, I'm really attracted to you. Is that weird? Yeah, it's fucking weird. Thanks, but no thanks. That didn't sit well with Alan, who continued to send more messages talking about mundane shit as if nothing happened. I ignored said texts and he eventually disappeared. Needless to say, my girlfriend was pretty damn disturbed hearing about Alan's forbidden love towards her, and decided not to look at any other places for the time being. My prepaid phone plan ends in 2 weeks, and Creepy Alan won't have any way to contact or find my girlfriend when I'm gone. I guess what terrified me in this experience was mistaking a real, legit, uncomfortable, and bad gut feeling with paranoia. Being that creep's house, the tiny room in the garage, and his infatuation with my girlfriend, she was mostly disturbed by the latter. So, Creepy Alan, I hope we never, ever meet again. This story happened about 4 years ago, when I was about 13. So to preface, my mom was leaving town for a week, so she decided to send me off to a summer camp 5 hours away from where I lived, to my hometown. This camp was a week long in the summertime, in the forest in the middle of nowhere, doing camp kind of things, and staying in a cabin. And we had to take biology class every day. The biology teacher was this middle-aged white guy, like maybe 30 to 40s. Nothing really extraordinary about him. So for the first half of camp, he comes off as a little bit flirtatious towards me. But I didn't really think much of it because, although creepy, no red flags had risen. So maybe 4 to 7 days into the camp, all the kids and the teacher went to a beach at a lake, a little ways from our campsite, to talk about the environment and whatnot. We had to walk there, which was about 30 minutes. Everyone was up ahead of me, and I was lagging behind because I had hurt my ankle earlier, so I was the last person in line. Ahead of me was the teacher, and ahead of him was the rest of the kids. When we were walking along the beach, I noticed the teacher turns his head around, and he's staring at me, smiling. His smile isn't completely creepy, but it's definitely edging more towards creepy than friendly. I noticed that at his hip is his camera. To explain a bit better, he was still walking ahead of me, head turned and smiling at me, looking in my eyes, and to his right side he had his camera pointed towards me by his hip. Like, what the fuck? I kind of just smiled meekly and didn't do anything about it. I've always been a non-confrontational kind of person, especially since I've always been petite, average size. Especially at the age of 13, I was roughly 90 pounds. Nothing unhealthy about me, I've just always been an average height and naturally really skinny. Nothing else really happens the next couple of days except on the last night I woke up in the middle of the night and see him looking into my cabin window. I was creeped out and he just walked away. The next day I avoided him on the way back to town. My mom picked me up from our town and we came home to my current place of residence. And I didn't tell anyone about it because I didn't think it was significant. I know people might scream about how I should have come forward with this information, but I figured it wasn't a total big deal since he didn't lay a hand on me or come off as a complete perv to anyone else. I would have had literally no witnesses or proof to back me up. And for that I regret not coming forward to anyone. But again, I didn't think it was a totally big deal, and I never saw him again. I kind of just forgot about it years later, until the summer he got caught for being involved with child porn. The police found tons of child pornography on his phone, and other creepy things like him being at McDonald's and taking pictures of children and zooming in on their butts and just violating things like that. He's in jail now, but creepy summer camp teacher, let's not meet again. I spend countless hours on this subreddit, and others of similar nature, and have decided to post one of the many creepy encounters I've had. At the time of this story, I was 20 years old. I am now 27, and I should also mention that I'm a female. I was working part-time in the cosmetic department at a drugstore, working mostly evenings, being a student and all. I was never overly afraid of being there at night. It wasn't a bad neighborhood at all, middle upper class, and there were always at least 4 people working in the store at a time. However, regardless of the neighborhood we were in, idiots will be idiots, and the theft rate in our store was at an all-time high, and it was usually targeted in the evenings. This company was a fantastic company to work for, and they generally cared about our safety and, of course, the products that were going missing. So they hired a security company to help cover the store in the evenings, mostly the cosmetic department. I should also mention that although there were always other employees in the store, the cosmetic department is pretty secluded, and there was only ever one employee, usually a female, scheduled in the department at a time. Because of this, the company of a security guard was definitely welcome to help pass the time on a long, quiet night. I worked 4 evenings a week, and another girl covered the other evenings, and it was, for the most part, the same schedule every week. There were a few different guards that would come to our store, but on most occasions, it was this one male. I'd guess around 25 years old. Not unattractive, and very friendly. Let's call him Mike. Mike would come in his uniform and post at our counter, and basically scare away potential thieves by doing just that. Quite often, we would chit-chat and pass the time having idle conversation. I'm very talkative, pretty much an open book, and sometimes too forthcoming with personal information. I began noticing that on my shifts, it was only ever Mike on duty, and asked him about it, to which he replied, "Yeah, you're just stuck with me now. Everyone else has other postings." That was entirely possible. I didn't think much of it. That is until I went into the store on one of my nights off to pick something up and saw that there was a different guard there with the other evening employee. We'll call her Sarah. I said hello to Sarah and the other guard and said, "Oh, it must be Mike's night off." To which the other guard replied, "Mike only works Sunday through Wednesday." Well, that caused a little lump in my throat. That was my exact schedule. It has to be a coincidence, right? 20-year-old naive me thought so. On with my life I went, not worried about a thing. The things that followed were a series of minor creepy encounters with Mike, running into him at the movie theater in my town, when I knew from previous conversations that he lived in the town 20 minutes away, which had its own theater with the same showings. Having him show up at my work on a day that I took an extra shift in uniform, claiming he was on his lunch break and now gets his prescriptions at my store instead of the one near his house, due to better service. I asked the pharmacy tech if he had a prescription filled, and she said no. The next thing still gives me the chills, not in a good way, and is when I started being not so friendly to this guy. I also want to make it very clear that on many occasions, while having conversations with Mike, I had mentioned my awesome boyfriend. There is no way he thought I could be available or interested in him. After a vacation that Mike took with some friends, he was back to working the same shifts as me at the drugstore, and I was remaining neutral towards him, still having conversations to pass the time. He asked if I'd like to see some photos he had taken from his vacation. It was a road trip, so he had a ton of scenery pictures, etc. I said sure and took his phone from him. And he said, "Just keep swiping left to see all the pics." So I'm scrolling through, and one swipe too many, and I'm looking at a full-blown dick pic. Of course, I kind of jump, stutter a bit, and say, "Oh, oops, I think I went a bit too far there," and pass the phone back to him, thinking it's a total accident and he clearly sent that to a girlfriend or something. Except he isn't embarrassed at all. He replies with, "I was hoping you'd see that," and the creepiest grin I'd ever seen. Chills again just typing this. I was all of a sudden very busy and didn't have time for chit-chat that evening. The next morning, I placed a call to the company he worked for and explained to them that I thought he might have a crush on me, and I was feeling slightly uncomfortable. I told them I didn't want to cause a scene and was hoping they would just change his location, or at the very least, his schedule. I sometimes have too much compassion and didn't want him to get in trouble, and was worried maybe he thought I would like his dick pic for some reason, and that it was my mistake. Like I said, sometimes I overshare and maybe he got the wrong idea. I was thrilled the next night when I went in and there was another guard at the store. I was grateful that his supervisor had listened to my concerns. However, when myself and the rest of the closing crew locked up for the evening, we heard a car's engine start up just as we left the store. When I looked for where the sound was coming from, it was in the corner of the mall parking lot, which was completely empty and dark, and I felt a knot form in my stomach when it was the same vehicle that Mike drove. I had seen him pull in multiple times, as the front of our store by the cosmetics department is all windows. Although I couldn't quite make out the exact color of the car, I was convinced it was the same. I was trying so hard to convince myself it was just someone with the same vehicle also closing up for the night. The car drove out of the parking lot, which made me feel better. When I got to my car, I noticed a note under my wiper blade. It read, "I'm so sad that my location got changed. We'll try to come back to your store as soon as I can. In the meantime, let's get together," with his phone number. I am basically puking in my mouth from nerves at this point. I jump into my car and get the hell out of there. The next day, I called Mike's supervisor again. This time, told him the whole story and asked that he relay the message, that I'm not interested, and to please leave me alone. I also told my store manager, who was a pretty awesome guy, who responded with a, "Oh, hell no," and placed a call to the supervisor as well, asking that Mike be advised not to step foot back on our store premises. I didn't see or hear from Mike for a few weeks after. Thought I was in the clear. I hadn't told my boyfriend anything at this point. It was a fairly new relationship, and I didn't want him to be weirded out by it. Weeks later, and I'm barely thinking about Mike and his forceful advances, when it is a very rainy evening, and I am at work setting up a new fall collection. When it is raining and dark, it is very hard to see out into the parking lot of the store. Basically, all you can see in the windows is the reflection of yourself and the store. I was over by the windows, bent over, putting some things on a bottom shelf, when a car honked outside the window. Of course, I looked up to see what was happening, and as I did, over my shoulder in the reflection of the store, I could see Mike standing behind me. Just standing and staring. I think I jumped a little, probably peed a bit. I try not to make like I even saw him, although I'm sure he knew I did. And I hustled to the other side of the store where the manager, who I had told the story to, was working. When I told the manager, he ran back to the cosmetic department, but Mike was gone. We later watched the whole thing on camera. That evening, my manager placed a very angry call once again to Mike's supervisor, who told us Mike had quit the week before after being told to stay away from our store. Yikes. You may be wondering why no one called the police at this point, but honestly, it just didn't seem dangerous enough. No one was getting hurt. It was just kind of creepy. That is, until I had finally told my boyfriend about it and my parents, and I stopped driving myself to work. I had developed a bit of a fear of going in my car alone at night. Therefore, either my boyfriend or mom or dad were driving me and picking me up from work. Except this one night. My parents were out of town and my boyfriend had a thing to go to this particular Sunday evening. So I drove myself. After closing time, I said my see you laters to my coworkers and walked to my car at the end of the parking lot. The parking lot has a river at the end of it with some benches overlooking the river with zero lights at nighttime. The only lights are the ones shining from the middle of the parking lot. I know, super safe spot to park, right? In my defense, the parking lot was always completely full when I got to work. So I'm walking to my car and I see nothing, and then I hear someone speaking. I immediately recognize it as Mike's voice. He's saying something like, "Why would you do this to me? Why would you make me believe you wanted me? We had so much fun together." As luck would have it, the pharmacist that had closed with me that night wasn't in his car, as he took the garbage out around the side of the building to the bin. I yelled, "Jim, wait a second," and hightailed it over to his vehicle where I said, probably a little too loudly, "Call 911. The police arrived and scoured the area for Mike, who was gone without a trace. I never saw him again. Mike, let's not ever meet again. Deal?